You don't get to quit. Get up!
It's pretty difficult to deny that The Boys is by far the most outrageous piece of fiction to have come out of the superhero genre. Honestly, some things in there would instantly put even the toughest men at unease. However, it's arguable that what keeps us hooked to the tale isn't really the gore but the unpredictable twists and turns scattered throughout the storyline. Undoubtedly, this originates from the cosmic, where the creators Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson really went all out to consistently blow our minds issue after issue. Well, it's time we talked about one such event, but be prepared, this one will probably break your hearts. Welcome to another marvelous video where we will be talking about the tragic demise of William J. Butcher in the original comics. But before we dive into all the diabolical stuff, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It might be just a small click for you, but for us it means an awful lot. With that out of the way, let's have at it. A diabolical end. William Butcher is the kind of guy that most people would undoubtedly want to murder, even the briefest conversation. The man has a special knack for getting under people's skins and rubbing them the wrong way, and at this point, I guess you could just call it his superpower. It's a good thing that he stands with humans against the Supes, or else it would actually be pretty difficult to tolerate this ruthless, foul-mouthed mercenary. But despite all his cons, no one certainly wants the Supes dead like Butcher does. There's of course a pretty tragic story behind all of this, and the Supes are all objectively terrible people, but Butcher can actually go to some pretty extreme lengths to achieve his goals. His single-minded devotion to the superhero's annihilation, as well as his questionable methods, have often put him at odds against the other team members. But at the end of the day, they're all brother. So one can't really imagine the members of the Boys murdering each other, but well, that's exactly what happens at the end of the comic book saga. The man gets butchered by one of his own, and we didn't say that for the pun. Though the death was extremely shocking for most readers, one can't really say that it was sudden. The seeds for Butcher's demise were popping up everywhere by the end of the comics. We first saw the seeds of this being planted in issue number 68. At this point in the series, Butcher had already achieved his goal of avenging his wife's assault at the hands of Black Noir, who committed the act in Homelander's disguise. By this point, our heroes were finally beginning to gain the upper hand against the Supes, and it seemed like victory was finally on the horizon, but then things got worse, and there was only Butcher to blame for this. All this time, we witnessed Butcher's methods becoming more brutal by the day. Despite the defeat of the Seven, Butcher continues his quest against the Supes, and this becomes the genesis of the ensuing problems with his team. Despite Butcher's success at avenging his wife, the soldier finds that pain is far from gone. Though none of the plans made by Butcher have ever been humane, he takes things to a whole new level by fixing his eyes on a new, more ominous goal: the complete annihilation of all superheroes on the planet. In a very twisted way, it almost makes sense, as William doesn't want anyone else to go through the same pain that he did. In order to achieve his goal, he begins manufacturing large quantities of a modified Compound V, a chemical that is proven to kill any Supe whatsoever when triggered. We learned that he eventually plans to detonate hundreds of bombs filled with this new strain of Compound B all over the world, effectively killing every superpowered individual in existence. Though this is clearly an act of genocide, to Butcher all of this insanity makes perfect sense. As the story reaches its end, he shows that he's willing to commit the worst of crimes to keep going. Initially, Butcher intends to keep his plans a secret from the rest of the team, but keeping a secret from a group of covert agents with expertise in espionage isn't easy. The rest of the Boys eventually figure out Butcher's secret and take it upon themselves to stop their leader. However, Butcher manages to get the drop on his comrades and sneaks into their safe house when no one else but Mother's Milk is home. Now, the two have been brothers in arms for quite some while, so it's pretty uncomfortable when a fistfight breaks out between the two. MM is undoubtedly the superior fighter and almost manages to overpower Butcher by beating him into a pulp. He would have definitely won had it been a fair fight, but Butcher has always been the sneaky one. He pulls out a grenade and blows it right next to MM's face, killing his friend instantly. Next, Butcher goes after Frenchie and the female, but this time they don't even get a chance. A huge explosion blows up the duo as they are sitting in their living room, leaving behind nothing but debris. Huey, who's just a few feet apart from the building, finds himself knocked back against a taxi. As the shell shock wears off, Huey slowly realizes that he must be the one to stop his former mentor. For a little while after the murders, Huey suffers from crippling uncertainty and self-doubt. After all, it's Butcher he's up against, the man who literally took down the superheroes. However, when a phone call from the CIA analyst alerts him to the fact that Butcher has been spotted on the top of the Empire State Building, there's nowhere else to run. He sees Butcher in flashback leading the team into battle, muttering, "Sometimes life's as big and mad and widescreen as it deserves to be." Refusing to turn away any longer, Huey makes his way to the skyscraper. As the escalator reaches the top, Huey finds himself gazing at the metropolitan skyline with only Butcher in the room. It's evident that Butcher's pretty close to accomplishing his plan as a detonator beeps ominously in his hands. For a little while, Huey tries to reason with his former mentor, but it is all in vain. In his trademark style, Butcher pokes fun at Huey's insecurities and asks him if he's still scared. Of course, Huey doesn't take kindly to these remarks, and he gradually loses his inhibitions until his face contorts into an expression of pure rage. He rushes blindly at his mentor, but Butcher just calmly steps out of the way. Huey crashes through the glass barrier and is about to tumble down to his death when Butcher grabs hold of him. It's nice to see that the man still has a heart, but our relief doesn't last for long. The shard of glass that Butcher was holding onto shattered, and the duo plummets to the ground. They fall onto a platform several stories down, but are far from safe. Huey has a metal fence penetrating his thigh, while Butcher declares that he can't feel anything from his neck down. In an oddly quiet sequence, the two old friends are forced to share a moment. The detonator lies unattended while Huey asks Butcher whether he could have really gone through with the act of murdering all the Supes. As Butcher lies there helpless, we almost see a hint of repentance on his face for the acts he has committed. Upon being questioned about the murders of the rest of the boys, Butcher states that he didn't really feel much. After all, violence was all he had known ever since he committed his first murder at the age of 17. In his own roundabout way, Butcher praises Huey for being a kind man and even asks him to hold on to Annie. In one of the most revealing moments of the entire series, Butcher comes to realize that at the end of the day, all the fighting just leaves you with bodies and scars. Suddenly, an NYPD helicopter appears above him, and Butcher realizes that their time together is short. He tries to get Huey to kill him, but Huey's just not that kind of a guy. Desperate and realizing that he has no other option left, Butcher reveals to Huey that he killed Huey's parents. Butcher provides enough false information about Huey's parents' last whereabouts that the latter eventually comes to believe him. In a fit of rage, Huey takes a broken piece of metal from the fence and plunges it deep down into Butcher's chest. As the blood seeps out, he praises Huey and dies with a smile on his face. Inside Butcher's jacket, Huey finds a phone and calls his family. As Huey listens to the voices on the other side, he realizes that Butcher's last trick worked perfectly, diabolical to the very end. Marvelous verdict. Well, that was an emotional roller coaster, wasn't it? Seeing all these beloved characters meet such brutal ends was difficult even on its own. But the fact these deaths happen at the hands of the people they love the most is truly horrifying. However, we gotta say that this was a pretty fitting end for the chaotic character of Butcher, and we honestly hope that he found some semblance of peace in his final moments with Huey. However, what do you guys think? Would you like to see this turn of events in the series, or would you rather see them go down a whole new path? Please let us know in the comments below. Well, that's it for this video, but don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with all our marvelous content. Well then, goodbye, and we'll catch up with you in the next one.